Hey, what's up? This is David Greenspan. Welcome back to season 4 of the Mindshare podcast. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast platforms. This week's episode is sponsored by Kit's Keep in Touch Systems and the Buzz Conference. Be sure to follow the Buzz on Instagram at the Buzz Conference and give them a visit at www.thebuzzconference.com to keep up with everything they're up to, including this upcoming event called Disruption, which is happening on January 12th, 2023. Be sure to get your tickets at www.thebuzzconference.com. We are proud to have the Buzz Conference as an ongoing sponsor of the Mindshare podcast. Kits is also with us today as a sponsor, as always, and I have to tell you that our team keeps coming up with new ways to make this powerful marketing system even more powerful. I mean, it's one thing to be using a bright, shiny CRM because, well, other people are doing it. It's a whole next level when you use a CRM, which is a complete suite of marketing tools tied right into it. No need for third-party providers, no need for a separate email blast system. All your social media tiles are built right in. Websites, landing pages, an open house registry tool in your CRM. The most effective keep in touch tools to help you build Mindshare. Seriously, Kits is loaded and you need to check it out if you haven't yet. I warn you though, once you check it out and you start using it, you are going to be hooked. But I mean, I guess that's not much of a warning as much as it is a little bit, well, actually a lot of very friendly advice. Check out Kits by going to my site, www.mindshare101.com and clicking on Marketing. As you know, we are on a push to get to 100 reviews on iTunes, and I would like to ask you, if you haven't yet, please take 2 minutes to rate the show and leave a review. We're making this super easy for you, and all you have to do is go to ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101. As always, thank you in advance. Today is episode number 200. So, this is the big 200. I mean, come on, wow. It feels like just yesterday we launched this show. In fact, I remember being convinced by a buddy of mine who said, "Dave, I have an opportunity for you." And I was like, "But what?" And he replied by saying, "Well, but you need to start a podcast. And you have to have like 3 shows available and live within the next 7 days." And I'm like, whoa, what? I mean, I didn't even know where to begin. And I guess that's like, most things in life, right? We all have these big aspirations, these big ideas, these desires. But oftentimes we don't execute because we don't have the right direction, because we've never done it before, because we feel we don't have the time. So let's break this down. If you have something you want to get done, something you've always wanted to bring to life, or somebody like throws this really cool idea at you that you want to do, how do you do it? What steps need to be taken? And how do we do it without being totally overwhelmed? In this case, for me, it was a podcast. In your case, it could be anything you want to achieve in life, be it business, be it personal. And let's state this once again. As I share this with you and I outline these steps, this is episode number 200. I mean, not for anything, but this process works. In fact, I'm going to break down the story of how the show started and what it's taken to execute on it. And you can relate this back to either, you want to start your own podcast, or again, the step-by-step process on like how to have success with anything you do or want to do. Now, if you're driving, I suggest to keep listening, but be sure to go back and listen again so you can also take some notes. So here we go. Like I said, a buddy calls me up, presents this opportunity to me out of nowhere, and put in perspective that I had like less than 10 days to pull all this stuff off. So here's the steps I took. And again, we're using my podcast as the example for the what we wanted to execute on. But like, hey, this could be anything, okay? So step number 1. Recognize the opportunity. What does this really mean? How will this impact me? What benefits should I expect to come from it? Naturally, most people always just look at the fact that they're so busy and simply just pass it up because of, well, no good reason. But those who grow, those who achieve, Those people who you look at and wonder, how are they so well put together? Or how'd they do that? How'd they get there? It's because instead of looking at the issues, the problems, and the reasons it won't work, they look at the opportunity. They analyze how it all fits in together with what they're already doing. Keep in mind, it's perfectly okay to say no if or, when you need to. Just don't say it without recognizing and analyzing the opportunity first. That's exactly what I did. I was sitting in shock, thinking, I don't even know where to start, and I don't even know if I even have the time. I also made sure to recognize the opportunity. And as we got off the phone, I took a moment to ponder. Then I started doing some research and learning. Step 2. Learn everything you can. Knowledge is power. In order to learn, I did what we all do these days. I Googled that shit. How to start a podcast. Of course, like a ton of different links were, with a wealth of information came up, and I just simply started clicking away. Now, let me remind you for a quick sec here, and you hear me say this all the time. Schedule everything. Schedule everything. Yes, I meant to repeat that. You see, before I am actually embarking on the research, I did look at my calendar to, number one, ensure I'd even have the time, or that I could move things around to make the time to start this project. And number two, to block time to actually get it done. Again, it's one thing to say it. It's a whole different thing to actually do it. So yes, maybe blocking time is step 2, but blocking time really is this ongoing foundational process for like everything we do. So I want to say that it goes without saying. If you're not blocking time to make things happen, then you aren't making enough happen. Period. Hard stop. See, in order to get it all done, you need to track it. When you track it, you can measure it, then you can adjust it. Otherwise, you're really just a chicken running around with his head cut off, possibly getting a lot done, just not setting yourself up to get it all done. I remind you again, those who have hit that next level, whatever that means to you, it's because they have structure, they have systems, and they have processes for how they operate. Okay, back to step 2 here. Knowledge is power. Now that I had the time block to do my research, it was time to dig in. I did my Google search, I found all of these resources, and I started to read. Read, and read. I spent a lot of time learning from a variety of different people about how they did it. I watched videos. I listened to other people's podcasts. I did my recon. In case you're not familiar with the word recon, it's a shortened form of the military term reconnaissance, which is defined as the exploration of an area to gain information. An example of recon is a visit across enemy lines to scope out the enemy positions. I mean, in my case, it was to understand the podcast landscape that already existed. What was I walking into? What kind of time would this take? What needed to happen to have success? How do I market the show? What kind of tools do I need? What kind of equipment do I need? There was a lot to learn. Recon ensures that we go into a battle with a real chance of winning. Side note, that is exactly what I suggest you do every time you're about to start a new marketing initiative. Be sure that you do your recon so that you are prepared, which ultimately sets you up to win. And by the way, and I imagine you already know this, but I'm a sports guy. I really like to win. So now that I've done my recon, I know what I need and I know how to proceed. It was on to the next step. Step 3, audience. Who is my audience? Always remember these 3 letters, AMH. They stand for audience, marketing, hustle. The first step, we always need to know who we're talking to. I mean, logic says, if you don't know who they are in some way, shape, or form, it'll be next to impossible to deliver a message that resonates with them. So I had to define my audience. Who will my podcast be geared towards? Of course, as we analyze the landscape, the sandbox that I play in day to day, day in, day out for like the past close to like 20 years, it's real estate. This includes realtors, brokers, managers, mortgage brokers, anyone in the industry. And it's really evolved and expanded itself into entrepreneurs and small businesses as well. My audience are people who run their own business, who sell for a living. As for demographics, in my case, these people can be from anywhere across North America and, well, even wider. And actually, I want to take a moment to say thank you to you. I mean, I don't know who you are. I mean, I may, but I know where you're listening from or what part of the world you're in. That said, you are my audience. And so I am grateful that you're tuned in right now. So just wanted to take a moment to say thank you. Now, in your case, your audience could be those who you do business with, such as clients, or it could be anyone who is in a position to influence whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. See, we always need people for anything we do, from how we receive our hydro or water and other utilities at home, to someone behind the counter of the hotel you're about to check in at, to the people that we do business with. People are important, and knowing your audience helps you truly understand who you're dealing with in that moment. Step 4, marketing. And in this case, I'm going to combine this step with branding. What am I going to name this show? What will my cover art look like? How am I going to market the show? These were all factors that need to be considered naturally, because without knowing this, it'd be impossible to get the word out. But also, just as importantly, because in order to have success with anything we do, especially when it comes to business, we need to make time. There's that word again. Like I said, a foundational piece of anything we do. I needed to make time to actually be able to focus on these parts above and beyond just recording some content. Now, I'm going to take a moment to say thank you for tuning in on the regular, because between our marketing efforts, the time spent to produce the show, and you actually tuning in to listen, the Mindshare podcast is frequently listed in the top 25 on iTunes and almost always in the top 100. Big thank you once again. But I mean, put that in perspective. There's thousands of shows already being produced and thousands more coming to market all the time. Being aware of what your format is going to be, what your brand is all about, what style you want to produce or that you already exude, and of course, as we mentioned a moment ago, who is your audience? These are all important factors to consider and map out when planning anything, be it a podcast, an event, or any marketing you plan on launching. If you want success, you need to plan for it. I mean, how many people do you know? Or you may even be one of these people. Hell, I think we're all, or at least at one point, have been one of these people. It's the planning that actually produces the results. Well, it's the planning and the hustle. And we'll get to the hustle in a moment, though. Sticking with step 4 here, though, of marketing, in order to build enough mindshare, we need to ensure that we leverage all 7 ways to communicate. These are a mix of your active and your passive touch points. Active touch points are the ones that you are physically involved in. Passive touch points are the ones that happen in the background, or in other words, while you're not around. To get a full list of the 7 ways to communicate, I've got a free resource for you at mindshare101.com. It's called the Ultimate Marketing Bundle. Just go to the site, again, mindshare101.com. It's right there for you on the homepage, completely free. Be sure that you're leveraging all 7 ways, because everything needs support. Think about it. If I'd only talked about my podcast on, say, like my LinkedIn page, would you know about it? What if I only talked about it on Instagram, or only by email, or only when I was actually with somebody? Seriously, would you know the show existed? See, everything we do for marketing always includes a support channel. One channel supporting the next. For example, we produce the show. We get it up online to all the major platforms plus our website. Then we support our efforts by posting on our social media, talking about it at every chance we get, sending out an email blast, and doing collaborations with many others. And there's even more to it. But as a high-level example, we put a lot of effort into marketing the show at every step of the way. So here, back to putting this in perspective for you. You have a new product, a new listing. You're hosting an event. How are you going to market it? How are you going to support each channel so that you are truly building enough mind share that people will hear about it? They will know about it and even care enough to pay attention to you. This is the same when setting out to achieve goals. Instead of like trying to start a podcast, as I've been sharing here, in this case, we need to market the idea to ourselves. What's going to help us or even cause us to be sure we're sticking in the plan? Visuals such as vision boards, reminders, planners, any sorts of visual triggers are important to trigger the subconscious mind. Marketing influences the part of our brains called the limbic system to either successfully or unsuccessfully have a decision go in your desired direction. Again, let me repeat that. Marketing influences the part of our brains called the limbic system to either successfully or unsuccessfully have a decision go in your desired direction. And in either example, all of it takes preparation and it takes time. Did I mention how important time is to this entire equation yet? Manage time, schedule everything. Step 5, tracking. I said this earlier. If you don't track, you can't measure, and then you can't adjust it. The only way we continue to grow this show is because we look at the metrics. Now, let me be very clear here. I'm not a fan of vanity metrics, and I encourage you not to put too much emphasis on metrics and what they mean about you. Instead, let's focus on what they mean to you. What? Was that a little confusing for you? Maybe, maybe not, but let me clarify this for a second here, okay? Because again, about you versus to you. See, what they mean about you, this is the vanity stuff. People often judge themselves based on like many likes or views, or in this case with a podcast, how many downloads we get. And it's a normal thing to do. But I want to encourage you not to overemphasize what this means about you. See, sometimes you get hundreds or even thousands. Sometimes you get almost nothing. Do not judge yourself based on what some platform reports to you about you. Do not think to yourself as anything less. Do not think that nobody cares. Instead, you must recognize that on some days, the platform just doesn't push your stuff out there that far, and therefore not enough people see it, which results in lower reporting numbers. Hey, sometimes your content may just flat out suck that day. But it doesn't mean you suck. Be sure that you clearly understand the difference between those two. Now, on the other hand, what the metrics mean to you, well, once you get past caring about what other people think or get past worrying that you're not worthy enough, now we do analyze the metrics so we can learn from them. Very similar to what we said before about doing our recon. In this case, we're looking at what content resonates with our audience. We can't be on or perfect all the time. Again, some content will crush it and some will just land flat. Track, measure, then adjust. In the case of my show, we go through a fairly rigorous selection process for our guests. And like I get a lot of requests from people who want to be on the show, people just want to be on, or people who want to pitch a product or service, and many who have zero clue who they are. Again, I am grateful. And if you do want to be on the show, please don't let me stop you from reaching out. You never know, you may just be a fit. See, we look for people who we feel are going to add value for you, my audience. And as I'm sure you can tell, we've been very fortunate to be able to interview many of the best on the show with us. And we have so much more lined up for you. In doing this, we pay attention to the content, the style of the individual. And then after the fact, we look at the numbers to see if they lined up the way we thought they would. This helps us identify which content you're really interested in, so we can serve more of that up for you. See, I need to make sure I'm always adding value for you, and if I'm not, then that's okay. But like for a week, we're not going to bat 1,000 all the time. But it really helps us determine what needs to change for the next time. I mean, think about this. How can I get better if we don't look at the ugly? You know what I mean? Like I said, as a sports guy, I am very competitive and I just want to win all of the time. But it's one thing to want it. It's a whole nother thing to actually work for it. Without tracking and measuring, we cannot adjust and we cannot continue to grow. Whatever it is that you're doing, you can spend all sorts of time planning. You can spend money to put it together. You can spend more time doing it. But if you're not tracking and measuring, then how do you adjust to be better the next time? To have continued success, we need to pay attention to the numbers and what they mean to us, not what they mean about us. See, I find this to be a huge problem in our society today. Social media has us rampant at always trying to keep up with everybody else. Even though we really have no idea what everyone else's situation is truly all about. So pay attention to you. Pay attention to the person looking at you in the mirror every single day. When it scares you, run towards it instead of away from it. See, most people run away. Do not be most people. Step 6, hustle. Burnout is real. To think that you're going to be on for 365 days a year, like every single year, it's just not possible. I mean, I guess it is, but that's no life to live. That said, I do feel that I'm on a 365 days a year, like just roller coaster. I'm always doing something, always going. I'm always thinking of my next move. But that doesn't mean that I don't take time to straight up enjoy life. In fact, I take a ton of time to enjoy. Or put another way, I make a ton of time to enjoy. See, years ago, my dad used to say, get a job working for the government or go be a school teacher. As you can tell, I didn't do either. But he would say that because they get all sorts of time off. They get pensions. They get a lot of added benefits. That said, I decided after school, after I was done like the first time around, I'd go back a few more times to get a few more courses done. And I also decided in that moment that being self-employed was how I wanted to live my life. And I'm guessing that as you're tuned into the show, there's a good chance that you decided to do the same. I need to fly my own flag. I need to make my own hours. I need to be in control of me. And that is exactly how I do it day in and day out. And exactly what I work to help you do day in and day out. Look, some days, this means that it's going to feel like an 18-hour day straight of work. Go to bed for a few hours and wake up and do it all over again. Other days, I take days off in the middle of the week. I have my weekends to myself. I take entire weeks off when I want to because that's the luxury I've afforded myself because of my hustle. You've probably heard me say this before. I like to play hard, then work hard. As long as I work hard when I'm actually working hard, then I feel I'm allowed to play as hard as I want. And that right there is the reality of the work-life balance. Oh, and this thing called time, well, it needs to be a conscious thought at the forefront of it all. Have I mentioned that yet? Time is always of the essence. And here, in fact, check this out, okay? As a regular listener, you would know that I'm often joined by a guest on my show each week. The episode is different, and obviously this time it's just you and me. From time to time, I really like these solo episodes where it's just the two of us. I feel I can share more with you. I get a better chance to educate and have value for you. It bottom line lets me share my thoughts. And as this is the big 200, I thought it would be ideal for it to just be us for this one. But here's the thing. Planning out a solo episode is in fact a lot more work than when I have a guest. It does take more time to think about what we're going to cover off, what the topic will be, what kind of value I'm going to add this week. So again, as I continue to say, time is always of the essence. Carving out time is imperative to execute on anything. The time to plan the show, the time to sit down and write the show, the time to produce the show, and the time to market the show. Every single week has an element of all of those steps, and every week needs time to be mapped out in my schedule. Now, by doing this and following these steps, we're here today. We're here on episode number 200. This is 200 weeks in a row that I've not missed a beat with this podcast. 200 weeks in a row of consistent execution of my plan. 200 weeks in a row to just get here where we are together right now. We are really excited for how far we've come. And we're really, really happy with where we are. But we are not where we're going. Step 7. Consistency is the magic ingredient to achieving anything you want in life. Everything and anything you desire is all possible. You can achieve it all. You just have to plan for it. You have to work for it. You have to have the patience and the desire to actually achieve it. How many times have you heard someone talk about what they want or say to you, one day I'm going to... ... Reminder, human beings have walked on the moon. Human beings jump off cliffs in rat suits to fly across the sky like birds. And human beings climb straight up cliffs with no ropes. And they make it. How? Why? Because they plan, they work hard, and they believe. Anything and everything you want is right here for you. It's all possible. No matter what your subconscious mind thinks, no matter what people tell you, no matter what or who you have seen try and fail before you, no matter if you've been that person to try and fail, it is still all possible. The path to success is all about trying, failing, and learning. If you don't try, you won't fail. If you don't fail, you won't learn. But when you do try, you do fail, and you do learn. All the while, you're marching towards the top. Now, am I at the top of this show? Hell no. Have I come miles from where we first started? Oh, hell yeah. This wasn't even an idea 201 weeks ago. But with the right steps, the right process, the right time blocking, the persistence, the patience, the hustle, the hard work, the frustrations, the failures, the incredible conversations with all of my guests so far, and everything else in between, here we are. You and me, together, on episode 200 of the Mindshare podcast. I started us off on this one by saying that I'll break down the story of how the show started and what it's taken to execute on it. And you can relate this back to either you want to start your own podcast or, again, the step-by-step process on how to have success with anything you do and or want to do in life. So here are the summarized steps we just discussed. And as you go forward, keep these 7 steps to success in mind. Step 1, recognize the opportunity. Step 2, learn everything you can. Knowledge is power. Step 3, define your audience. Know your people. Step 4, build mindshare leveraging all 7 marketing channels. Remember the free resource at mindshare101.com. It's sitting there for you on the homepage. Step 5, track everything so that you can measure and know exactly where to adjust. Step 6, plain and simple, hustle hard when you need to. Simply thinking about it is never enough. Step 7, consistency is the magic ingredient to achieving anything you want in life. Remember this, you have all the power inside you to bring it all to life, to walk on that moon, to hit those goals you've always wanted to hit, to achieve anything you want in life. I thank you for sticking with me, and I want you to know there is still so much more to come. This is only the beginning for both of us. It's only up from here. You're there listening to this on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com, and while you're on my site, make sure to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle for Realtors. This is a 31-page ebook packed with a ton of tips and tricks for you, plus it's a ready-to-go 90-day social media content calendar to help you build more mindshare so that you can get more market share. And if you want to talk about personalized one-to-one coaching, an in-person keynote talk for your upcoming event, and/or ongoing virtual training, just get in touch with our team. We'll set up a free consultation call, learn more about what you're looking to achieve, and how we are going to help you do just that. Also, don't forget that our push to 100 is on. All you have to do, this is super easy, is go to www.ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101. And if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at Mindshare101 and on Instagram at David Greenspan101. I want to thank Virginia Munden and the Buzz Conference for sponsoring today's episode. Be sure to visit their website, www.thebuzzconference.com, and follow them on Instagram at The Buzz Conference to keep tabs on all the awesome events they are always hosting, along with getting the latest copy of the Buzz digital magazine. Remember to book your tickets for Disruption, happening on January 12, 2023, and be sure to get those tickets at www.thebuzzconference.com. Of course, I want to thank Kids Keeping Touch Systems for sponsoring today's episode. If you haven't checked this out yet, just go to my site, mindshare101.com, and click on Marketing. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.